Hey everyone, welcome to DevOps Impact Journey. In today's video, we're going to be attempting to create a AI-powered Github-actions workflow. So I've never done this before. This is going to be interesting. Stick around. So what I've got here is I've got GitHub Workspace configured, and I have a VS Code instance in my browser. So before I started, what I've done is I've created a OpenAI API key and added it as a secret to this repo. So this repo is the one that we'll use for attempting to build our automated AI-powered GitHub actions. So let's start. So another thing I also want to point out is I'm using Copilot as my AI pair programmer. So as we go along, we'll be utilizing its functionalities to be able to power through this task. So let's start by creating a new folder. GitHub workflows, and we'll create a new workflow file, powered summary. So if you're not familiar with GitHub workflows, every workflow file needs to get put inside GitHub workflows. This dot means this directory is hidden, and that's how GitHub parses these files and then then creates actions for your repo. So let's start with a comment. All right, let's start with a name. Now I should be getting recommendations from Copilot. I wonder what's happening. There we go. So what I just did is I hit Control Enter. That prompts me up with another page, and then you can synthesize a bunch of solutions. So by default, it synthesizes 10 solutions. So that I use that if Copilot doesn't recommend inline code for me. So let's have a look. On pull request, we want it to run on pull request. So it's also given me a longer version to use. Yeah, let's start with simpler. So that looks like a good starting point. So it runs on pull request if a pull request is opened, synchronized, reopened, or edited. So if we edit the pull request, it also reruns it again, which makes sense, right? So next step is the jobs. So we've got a build job, runs under Ubuntu latest image, uses actions checkout. So this needs to be run because we want to be able to check out this particular repo into the actions container. And then that's the name. So that's where the proper code lives, right? So before we do that, we need to actually run a build job. So just let's imagine container. I wonder why it's not recommending anything inline. No. All right, let's look at the logs of this guy. Yeah. Yeah, it's not running on demand. Okay, so I think that was disabled. I didn't realize that little darker logo meant it was disabled. There we go. So it's starting to work now. That means it's thinking. So there we go. So it's trying to use existing, I think, existing action, but we want to just run a build. So build Docker image, and so AI powered build summary is the tag for this, which makes sense. So let's leave it at that. And then, so no, we don't want to run Docker image, but what we want to do is parse log and summarize. Alright, so here what we want to do, my theory is we will be able to use OpenAI's Python library. So what I'm doing here is I'm instructing Copilot to give me a bunch of recommendations. So it's looking at the comment now and it's trying to recommend something. Let's get out of this terminal. There we go. So I wonder whether this image has a Python installed. Let's have a look. So it uses summarize.py, which is fine. It runs inside script directory. So let's follow its instructions. What we also need to do is set up Python. I don't want to assume that it has Python, so set up Python 3. There we go. So it uses actions. It uses a given action. Let's look at whether this exists, because sometimes it can. There we go. Okay, so it does exist. So this action does exist, which is good. So let's use v2 for now. If it complains, we can always update it. And then we run Python 3 script, blah, blah, blah. All right. So that looks like a pretty good pull request for now. So let's go back to this view. New job. Okay, so let's merge this. So this is a new job, basically. We don't have anything at the moment, but okay, so it actually ran a job, which is weird. So okay, so the Docker build is trying to build something. I don't know whether it'll work because we don't have a Docker file at the moment, but that's okay. Let's continue. Let's add a Docker file. New file, not there. Docker file. Let's use the Ubuntu latest. So we're using Ubuntu latest. This is trying to recommend some stuff for me, but I just want to be able to set up a bunch of binaries. Set up Kubernetes CLI, which is basically kubectl. I should have mentioned kubectl here. And it's trying to set up Kubernetes kubectl 1.1.0, which is pretty old, but that's okay. We just want to be able to see the logs and be able to parse it, and that would actually be a good idea to do an older version, see if we can detect, see if the AI can tell us whether it's old or new. And then let's set up Helm. There we go. So that's the latest. It's using the latest one, which is good. That's fine. What else do we need? We don't want to do AWS CLI for now. That's it. So let's add the Docker file. Curl not found. Nice. Okay. Cool. So let's use Copilot again to install curl. Docker file. Curl. All right. It's running a build. It's trying to build Docker image. Nice. Okay. Parse log and summarize. So Python successfully set up, which is good. Parse log and summarize step failed, which makes sense because we don't have a Python file yet. So let's look at this file. So let's create this file. Import systems. Yep. Nope, we don't want to import re. I don't know what that is. So this script summarizes the results. The result log file content is sent to OpenAI's GPT-3 and that's it for summary. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to send that log over to OpenAI's GPT-3 API and then get a result and post it back into the pull request comment. So let's see so we need to import OS, I think, to be able to read file. Import JSON, probably not, because I think we already have OpenAI library that has JSON built in, or JSON support. Function parses the log file and returns the contents. Okay, so this is pretty much, as you can see, pretty much doing my job really. So it's giving me a function, parse the log file. It looks at log file, and then it opens the file as f, and then it reads the content, returns the contents. So that's basically a mini file reader. There we go. So it's also created a comment for me. Because I added a descriptive title or comment for this file, it sort of understands the context and follows along what I'm trying to do, which is pretty cool. Okay. Generate summary, open API key. So that's the API key, right? So one of the things that we need to know is how to get this secret across to this this file or this script. So we're going to remember OpenAI API key as a variable we need to add. So engine is DaVinci. I think that is not true. So DaVinci text 003 maybe. We'll figure it out later. Yeah, that's probably it. Let's leave it at that for now. All right, let's return the response. We're not going to do any edge cases and handle exceptions or whatever, because this is just a quick demo. We probably won't have time for that. Now let's run okay. So that's the log file, and then send log files. Nice. And then print the summary. So what we want to do is we want to be able to send this log out to GitHub pull request. So let's leave it at that. Let's just print the summary. Okay. So we've got a basic working model. I think we will need to install OpenAI as a library. but we'll see. Alright, let's see. So it's going to run a new action again. There we go. Okay, so indentation error, something something. So in line 29, return. Okay, so yeah. Oh, that's not it. This guy. So this has to be underneath the function. Fair enough. Let's push it. Let's run it again. Okay, so this is the problem that I was anticipating. It doesn't have a module called OpenAI. So we did have a Python configured in the summary in the build job, but we also need to run this install this OpenAI library before we can run it. So let's do that. Install Python dependencies. Yeah, I just want to install OpenAI. Let's see whether it recommends the same solution. Yeah, it's pretty much it. Pretty much the same. Let's do this. Alright, so what we're interested in is the Python dependency part. Nice. So it's installing Python dependencies now. And it's still failing, which is expected because we haven't provided any arguments nor have we provided the API key for it, right? So let's pass some environment variables to this. Pass OpenAI API key as key secret, right? That's a secret we want to pass. OpenAI, so that's a secret. Let me look up what the secret name was. So it's OpenAI test key. OpenAI test key. So as you can see, it created an environment variable config for me. I would have probably had to Google it or remember it. It's not that I'm not familiar with it. It's just it's easier when you use this Copilot, it's easier to get recommendations, and it's just a repetitive thing anyway, so you don't really need to memorize all those stuff. As long as you know what the intention of this particular line is, for example. Right? So we're passing OpenAI API key, and we also need to pass a log file. So let's call it build log.txt. Now, what it means is this file needs to exist, right? So let's see whether we can get Copilot to pull up some tricks. Build log.txt. So all it's doing is sending it to build log.txt. Now, I don't want to also hide all the logs from the console. So what I'm going to do is run t. So t is a command line tool that sends the logs to the console and also to the log file. Alright, so let's see what's changed so far. API key and build logs. So I'm not being very mindful of my comment messages, but when you're doing it in real, it's better to commit one by one because these two particular changes for environment variable and the logs are different. So ideally, you don't want to push those two changes in the same commit. Okay, it's building, and at the same time in the background it's also sending that file, that log, to the file. Okay, so it's built it, it's tried to parse it, right? It's got some issues. Okay, so now we get to the interesting part, because we have the foundational work that we wanted to do done. Now all we can focus on fixing the Python script. So it's complaining about that model not existing. So what we're going to do is, instead of passing, waiting for the actions to run every time we push, we're going to run some stuff locally. So we're going to do docker build. Do we have Docker? Yep. So this is a good GitHub workspace, and it seems to have a lot of tools that developers need anyway. So test, let's push it to log file.txt. Wrong command. It's not test, it's just T. Awesome. So what we're gonna also do is we're gonna not do that, only print the log file contents. Right. OpenAI is very, very handy. Nice. So we can see a new file. It's got all the logs. Oh, it doesn't. Weird. Okay. Let's send the logs directly rather than. A quick Googling isn't all that bad. Assume would suffice. So the output's not being sent to the standard output, it's being sent to the standard error. So let's do that. Let's send this to build log.txt. No cache. Let's call it test image. So that works for us for now. Let's stick to that. So we've got the logs, and we've got the capacity to parse it. Let's run Python script. No module named OpenAI. Let's install it locally. Okay. Okay, index is out of range. Oh yeah, sure, because we haven't passed an argument. So that's the output. So it's parsing it. What we need to do now is remove all this noise, right? So this is a noise. This is a noise. There's a lot of noise here. So because I don't think OpenAI's API is going to be able to accept all these text. Print the log files. What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to run it one more time and just be able to print the output, print the logs in the workspace so that I can tell that the logs are getting passed through to the new job. So of course it's gonna fail here because we haven't fully fixed it, but well, we just want to be able to see the logs. So the logs are showing up. So these are the logs, which is great. We're still seeing the same problem. The model doesn't exist, right? So this is because OpenAI's model that I mentioned here, DaVinci, doesn't exist. It's probably text-DaVinci, whatever. Let's look it up. So that's the so that's the new chat-gpt model, right? What we're gonna use is we're gonna still use the old version. So that's a snapshot. Let's look at this one. Text. So this is the instruct. It was previously called instruct model. Now it's called text-DaVinci-003. Yep. So I mixed up the text and DaVinci, which is fair. So let's push it. Scripts. Okay, it's running again. It's parsing, it's sending the logs to the output. Model's maximum context. So this is what I was anticipating, that we don't, this log is too big, and we need to make it concise, make it smaller, right? So the reason is being the OpenAI model can only accept 4,000 tokens. All right, let's look at some other alternatives. What we want to do is we want to add some comments that we can use to give context to the script. So we can say start summary, and then end log summary, right? So what we can then do is we can use these to capture the logs between these two. If that makes sense. So what we can do is run echo installing binaries, and actually start log summary, and then we can do run echo end log summary. So we can parse these, and we can add these logs to the parser. So the parser then needs to look at these logs. The entire reason we need to do this is because of the context, or because of the token limitation, right? So let's go back to the Python file. Let's remove that. No, so I think it was start log summary and end log summary, right? Then what we want to do now is start reading it. And let's see if it runs, if start parsing tag in lines, start index. Okay, so it's trying to identify the index, right? And then else. No. Then that's the end index, right? Then log between the start and end line. That's it, right? So then it returns the log files. So let's see if that works. Let's build it again. Let's copy this little command here. Let's build it. Nice. So let's look at build log, and then let's see if we can find our start. So start log summary, and then I think we should be able to find the end log summary. So we want to parse anything between those two, right? It still looks like a lot, but we'll see. Now I want to be able to run it locally, so I'm gonna disable this function. Is pretty useless. I want to be able to run the parsed log. So parse the log and then print. Okay, syntax error, else if. I think it's elif. Build log text. Before assignment. Okay, so start index equals to 0. Yeah, this should also be 0. Nice. Why is it not? So essentially this tag okay, I forgot to check that it needs to loop between these files. So let's remove this. That's all right. Let's run it. That's it. So these are the logs that showed up. So run curl and then helm, right? So what we want to be able to see is a summary that talks about having those two binaries installed in the pull request. So let's see whether we can push this. Alright, so this job is running. Alright. So now you've submitted 29 prompts, but you can currently request up to a total of 20. Okay, too many parallel completions. Completions request. Okay. So what's happening now is so add an instruction plus in a new line GPT summary, right? So what it's going to do is it's going to continue adding the summary, and then we're going to parse that again. A lot of parsing here. Okay, so this file is now become a list. Right, that's probably why it was complaining about too many prompts. So let's remove that. Let's take care of that list. Nice. So I didn't know you could do that in Python. Let's see. Sweet. So now it's converted to one text. I think that was a problem from earlier. All right. 2 jobs running. Let's cancel this because that's an older one. Okay, that's good. Nice. So let's look at the summary. This log removed intermediate container, installed kubectl, helm and tiller into local bin, and completed with nlog summary. Nice. Alright, so we've got the summary, right? Now, how do we parse it and send it to... Okay, so it's also installed tiller. I didn't know that. I didn't realize it was installing tiller as well. So this is apparently installing Helm 3 or Helm 2. Fair enough. So what we just need to do is send the output of this to a variable output that another action job can run. So send the response or another. We can also send it to a file, right? Yep, that's fine. That works for me. I think it also needs to close the file. Sweet. Okay, so it's gonna print and it's gonna put it in a summary. Now, what we need to do is we need to find a way to send this particular text to the summary, to the comment. So it's already kind of inferred we want to do a comment. And so let's see what it recommends. Create comment on PR. I don't want to use anyone's. I think that's a pretty good one. Peter Evans. Yep, let's see whether we can piggyback on his action. All right. Now we're also getting into another interesting part where our job is now successfully running, so that's a big motivation to continue. Resource not accessible. Okay, yeah, so multi-line. This is wrong, so let's use v2. And then we need to use body file. So the body file is summary.txt, which is amazing. Okay. Okay, so default permissions need to be changed. Okay. Workflow permissions, there we go. So we needed to add read and write permission. Okay, dependencies installation. So in the real world, you would want to have your own container that has these dependencies pre-installed, so that it doesn't overshadow the logs and comment. Okay, so now, let's look at the pull request. And as you can see, it's got one comment, and that's the comment. So it's coming from GitHub Actions, and it's now talking about the changes. Now it's a little bit, it's awesome, it's good, but it's a little bit hard to read. So let's do one final push and give it a little better instructions. So create a summary of this log for a comment on a GitHub pull request. Use markdown format for readability, right? And then we probably, yep, that's fine. Let's leave it there. So there's a job running. Nice. Okay, so it's updated the pull request, and that there it is. So it's a little bit better to read, I guess. It's removing in intermediate container. That probably doesn't need to be there, but it was in the log, so I asked it to summarize the log. So if you provide it with a better log, it's probably going to give you a better summary. So installing kubectl into this directory, and then Helm and Tiller into local bin. Then it is running Helm init to configure Helm, finally adding the log string and log summary. So that also managed to get in there. So that's pretty much it. Let's do a merge. This repo is, at the moment, it's private because I've got my API key configured there, and if it's public, I don't want people to create hundreds of pull requests. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful. So I'd never done this before. It took me about roughly an hour to complete it. Now if I do it again, it's probably going to be 20 minutes. So really easy to integrate some AI related APIs to your workflow, to your CI/CD. So I hope that gave you some motivation to do the same. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.